Going into a new store is like starting a police investigation. Find out how on the Fixed Ops Mastermind. Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. Remember to go to fixedopsmastermind.com and join our Tuesday night Fixed Ops Mastermind Leaders Group. You can hang out with other leaders in the fixed ops industry, learn, find mentors, and get incredible information. fixedopsmastermind.com. Make sure you join that. Our guest today is Kosi Kalaitzidis. He is from down under in Australia, and with over 30 years of experience in the automotive sector, including 10 years within Volkswagen dealerships, owning 3 ultra-tune service centers, and running race car teams, he truly understands the fundamentals required to motivate and lead successful teams. Having experience in both sales and service departments, he understands what it takes to build a successful dealership. He is self-motivated and driven. He thrives on mentoring and developing young people to become professionals in their chosen fields, and that is why we knew he would be awesome to have on the Fixed Ops Mastermind. Welcome to Kosi, who is a dealer principal who came from the fixed ops side. This one's gonna be good.
All right, so my name's Kosi Kalaitzidis, dealer principal of a Brighton Volkswagen dealership. My background, I've been in the industry for 35 years, really starting as an apprentice mechanic. A lot of people either come from through the back end of the business or of a service department, or they started via sales. And so predominantly, 20 odd years of my background has been in service and after sales. I did leave actually the dealership world for a period of 5 years, and I started my own independent workshops. I had 3 of them, equivalent to your lube, quick lube workshops in America.
Sure. Yep.
They're called Automotive. So, and then I came back to the car dealership world again. So predominantly since 15, now 50. Wow. Been entrenched in automotive.
Excellent. Yeah, I started right out of high school with a program with Ford. So I started up through the technician ranks also, and worked my way up to the higher chairs. I couldn't stay as a technician because I wasn't very good, so I had to get out and find something else to do in automotive. Thank you for that introduction. It's terrific to talk with you. And terrific to talk with a dealer principal who comes from the back of the house. Obviously, most dealer principals have a very in-depth sales background, and certainly you come from the other end and realize where the real money is made in the dealership, which is the back of the house, and especially through times that we're going through now, where it's pretty much the only place that's making money in the dealership. So I'd like to talk a little bit about one of the things that you have in your profile and in your background is really getting teams to really excel. And I'd like to talk about a little bit of your philosophies on that and where you start and how you build that culture with your people.
Look, if I give an example, so I've been at this particular site for a year now, right? But prior to that, I was at another site for 18 months. And that particular site, it was interesting because I was actually called by the manufacturer to come and assist this dealership because it was pretty much in turmoil. And it was a very interesting mindset to come in and understand. And it's like you've come into an investigation as to, okay, well, where is the business right now, right? And what areas are of concern. And I used to call it my 30, 60, 90-day philosophy. Yeah. So what do you do in the first 30 days? You come in and investigate the whole dealership. And it's quite structured. So the first 30 days, come in, really investigate and interview people, talk to people, It's amazing what people tell you in the first couple of days. You
Yes, it
ask a
is.
question, do you like working here? No, not really. Okay. Why? And you ask them, are you looking, moving on? Oh, yeah, actually I am. Okay. So within the first 30 days, you know who you can invest in. You know who there's no use putting any energy towards because they're not going to stay. They already have their own plan to move forward. And then in the 60 days period, you really start to then try, okay, well, how can I help? And it's always asking the same questions to the people who now, want to stay. What help do you need? Is it external, internal, training? Whatever the case may be. So ask the questions. And again, they'll actually they'll open up towards you. And I think in investing in people sincerely, I think is a thing, right? Understanding everybody what they need and want. And then once you've got the team, and it took me a period of 4 months. In actual fact, I think it was 102% turnover I did in 4 months in that particular dealership. But I had to because it was such a poor performing dealership for quite a period of time. I was losing money. And in the first 12 months I was there, we actually started making money. But it's not always about making money. Money will come, the old Zig Ziglar. Help people get what they want, get what you want, right?
Yes, sir.
So and once you have the team of people on board, I think then it's very important to discuss what you believe are the attributes of the business. Okay, what do we stand for? Who are we? And we say, welcome to the Volkswagen family when you buy a car. But what does it really mean? And that's for all departments. Are the detailers actively involved in some of the processes as your sales managers are? There's a time and point where everybody fits within their own little meetings of seniority to others. But I think it's important to get involved in every area. And, there's been some times I've been out in the back of the workshop and when I first joined here and I wasn't happy with the cleanliness. I'm a bit of a control, I like clean freak, right? And I said, okay, you guys, to our apprentices, you clean it to your standard, and then I'll come out and I'll clean to my standard, and we'll see a difference, right? And it's the old typical, sweep around the bins, don't move toolboxes out, and on now move everything away from the wall, and we're on the middle, and then we'll actually scrub, and took some photos. I said, now this is the standard that we should be adhering to. And it's interesting, people say, why do I think I'm like that? So I spent a lot of time in motorsport. I had my own teams and I've raced overseas also. And I think one of the most important things when you're trying to attract sponsors is that you need to look impeccable, right? Regardless of the performance of the team, because you can have a team performing on track who may not be going that well, but they look really, really well. And a sponsor can say, well, geez, I wonder if that team needs a bit of money that they might get them to the front. But if a team looks like, mechanics have got the pants half hanging down and transporters look a bit ratty, you're not going to get a lot of interest. And that comes back to business. If your team has a perception of they look a bit ratty, you may not get some good other candidates who want to join your team. So I can tell you, I have learned a lot in motorsport that I've been able to bring into automotive business along the way. Long-winded answer.
I love. No, it was an excellent answer. I love the last part of what you were just saying, which I was writing down, that the team has to look good even before they are good.
Absolutely.
And you're absolutely right. And the dealership has got to be clean. You've got to have a good place for even the team to work, right? Because even if the customer areas are clean, but where the techs and things are working is not kept as clean, that all affects production in maybe the fact that they're walking around boxes that could be thrown away, but it also affects production because it starts to lower morale, even if they may not think so. Not having your house clean does start to affect the way that you feel about the place. The fact that you were also very involved in the aftermarket world for a while also, I'm sure that gave you a little bit of a glimpse of of what the dealerships were doing that were driving so many people to the aftermarket world. Because let's face it, the customers that leave us to go to the aftermarket world, it's really our fault. We had them there. They were there with us. They spent a lot of money buying a car from us, and we let them go somewhere else for some reason. Is that something that you focus on with your teams? Is focusing on retention and making sure that the customers don't go elsewhere?
Yeah, look, it's funny. I've been discussing this with Volkswagen Australia, myself as a manufacturer, over the last couple of years, and I say, like if we're not really having to do either different shifts or double shifts or expanding our workshop, we must be going backwards. All manufacturers, all workshops must be going backwards. If we've got still 20 bays 10 years ago, 10 years later, you've still got 20 bays, we must be going backwards. We're selling more cars every year on year, right? So there's a couple of concerns I have in dealerships versus non-dealership independent. And, whilst we have the cars now, probably going to the 5-year warranty period, you tend to maybe have the client coming back within that warranty period, okay? And that's if you do a good job. Otherwise, I'll go to another Volkswagen dealer or another dealer. So yeah, you still have to do your job within those 5 years, right? My concern is, and I've spoken to a couple of different manufacturers about this along the way, is that car owner 2, 3, and 4. So the person has bought the second-hand vehicle, in our particular brand being Volkswagen. If they've never been to a dealership, there's a perception that the dealers are expensive, right? And that's a perception. And the concern we have as a dealer is that I don't have the data of who they are, right? So I can't actually contact and put an advert out nationally to do it. But the non-dealers, your Jiffy Lubes, I think over there, and your Quick Lubes, they can actually, they do a really good job. They actually do a fantastic job of marketing that they're actually quite relevant in price compared to a car dealer. So it's when your car park's grown because the cars are now 10, 12 years old, there's a big segment of those clients that we've never seen. And it's the challenge is to try and attract those clients also into a dealership. And you talk about, 10 years ago, maybe when we sit there and say, fantastic, what's your labour rate? Go $220 an hour and go, how good are we? Now you're $220 an hour, no one will ever come, right? So we're paying the price, I think. We're paying the price.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Jiffy Lubes of the world around here are very, very good at making people believe that it is cheaper to go there, even though and I literally just did price shopping 2 weeks ago. They were $40 more expensive than us, a Ford dealer, for their oil change and tire rotation. So it was, and I can throw a rock 3 times and hit their building, and yet they're getting people to go there thinking they're getting a great deal. So that is a terrific point. The aftermarkets do a very good job of convincing people, and we do a very poor job of selling ourselves and selling the value of the dealership. Other than just you get factory parts and factory trained technicians. People don't really care about that too much. In the long run, I think they believe that their mechanic is a very capable person and probably is. But we don't do a very good job educating our customers as they leave the store after purchasing a vehicle about the service department enough to get us a leg up on those people who might be leaning or might be already heading out to go somewhere else to service their car.
Dave, I think when you contacted me, I thought, what are we going to talk about? And I keep going back to when I was a service advisor, right? And you don't realise you're good at an advisor until somebody tells you, why do you have 10 people waiting for you and there's 3 other people available? They all want to wait for you, right? And I said, I don't know. Like, you don't know. You're a 24-year-old guy. But as you get through, and I think it's actually having a rapport with the client and making them feel that they can trust you. And I'll go further into when I started my 3 independent stores, especially the first one, right? You're the guy running the workshop or running the building, running the office. Mm-hmm. You're talking to the client. You can put the car on the hoist and say, Johnny, come out here, I'll show you, right? Where I think as dealerships are getting bigger and more volume we're trying to do, we're losing the touch of having a relationship with the client. It's the person who they've seen in the driveway is just the person who's greeting them and moving the car. And then they come in as another touch point of maybe a concierge person in the service. And then there's a service advisor. And then there's someone else. Whereas I think we're losing the whole relationship of actually really being, talking to the client on the phone. You're the same guy who's spoken on the phone when you book them in. To, oh, hi, welcome, Johnny, great to see them. Use their first name when they've come in, knowing who they are, right? And Volkswagen, know who your customer is, understand your customer. So I think the ma and pa shop, as we used to call it, right? I think there's a lot to be said for having that relationship with the customer. And then you'll see the kids grow up and come and visit you and so forth. I think we're growing to a rapid rate that we're losing the touch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. As I was thinking while you were talking about that, going back to my days as a service advisor, we were the ones answering the phones and making those appointments for the customers. We were the ones greeting the customer. We didn't. The service drives were not a thing up here in New England back in the 80s and early 90s. Yep. So you were the one greeting the customer, and when they cashed out, the dealerships that I worked at, either you were the cashier or the cashier was right there next to you. So there was no passing them off over to a cashier and let a cashier take all the heat and explain things. If there was heat, you were going to feel it because either you were cashing them out, or they were right next to you, which gave you the added incentive to make sure that customer was all set to actually pay their bill before you tried to get them to pay it. So, and make sure that they understood the things. And it is all those. I think that's a big part of why people go to the aftermarkets, right? Is that relationship and that rapport, and that's although we talk about it a lot, I don't think we're doing a great job at teaching our teams how to build that rapport, how to use those soft skills and the people skills. And I think we skip over that too much, and sometimes we have too much technology involved that gets in the way of that relationship. And it's probably something that maybe some of this COVID situation has hopefully taught some people as the amount of customers coming in slowed down, and it allowed advisors to spend more time. I think, I don't know if you noticed it at your store, but I know a lot of stores noticed that their advisors' performance actually improved because they actually got to spend some time with customers instead of being overwhelmed like we've made them over the past 10, 15 years or so.
Yeah, 100% right, Dave. And like right now, so in Victoria, unfortunately, compared to the rest of the states in Australia, we're what we call in stage 4 lockdown, right? So you cannot come in to the dealership to buy a vehicle, right? It's all online. To come in for a repair, it has to be a major repair fault, like a water on the dash. We can't actually carry out a routine scheduled service on a vehicle. Right? So that's unfortunately from 4th of August until 13th of September. So it's a really challenging environment. So we now have 4, 5, 6 cars coming a day where we normally have 50 cars coming a day, right? But wow. You're right. So we have one advisor, and I've noticed she's in tune with the clients because she's right there in the driveway, seeing them in the morning, seeing them all day long. At the end of the day, and I see it, I sense it, and I can tell how more engaged they are. And I think, come after our lockdown period, when the world opens up again, I'll say unfortunately we'll go back to having the 50 clients a day come in, and we'll lose that touch again, right? So it's difficult to try and have the big dealership environment and with the independent love.
Yes.
Right? It's very challenging.
It is. It is. Somebody had thrown an idea out to me the other day, actually on a direct message on LinkedIn, and asked if dealerships would ever go to the model of a separate service area. So you have your sales dealership building, and then service was somewhere else. And it's an interesting idea. I don't know if that would ever actually work, but I think you could almost get a little more of that independent feel if you did that. If they weren't walking into the big Taj Mahal, dealerships that are out there getting their car serviced, which is one of the things that makes people believe we're so expensive. And if they were just walking into a Ford or a Chevy branded repair facility. And I don't know. I don't know whether that would actually work or not, but it's an interesting concept.
I think, Dave, it's funny you mentioned that. A couple of years ago, I was talking to Volkswagen about that. That's what they need to do, because they were lacking back in the day when we was like 4, 5, 6 weeks booked out. Every dealership was 4, 5, 6 weeks booked out.
Wow.
We had it once upon a time, and to the point now, unfortunately, we do get it at times. And as the land becomes dearer and dearer, where you're on a main highway and you're a massive dealership, there's a lot of expense required to have that dealership there. And we talk about it, and it's funny, we talk about it with the electric cars. There'll be less maintenance on the cars. Do we need to have the facility we have right now? Do we need to be on the main highway, or can you have a workshop that's not necessarily on the main highway? I think the point that person made to you is quite valid. And I think in the next 5, well, say 10 years, but next 5 years, I think you'll start seeing a lot more manufacturers, especially saying, okay, to make a dealership viable, we need to shrink somewhere. And if the volumes are reducing, which they are year on year, especially in Australia, and the margins are reducing year on year, well, we have to do something.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely. I guess it's always an interesting time in the automotive business, but I think the next 5 to 6 years are probably gonna change this landscape of the automotive industry more than it has in the last 20 years. And it's all started with. I said at the beginning of COVID that the disruption that everybody was talking about, where people wanted to say they were disruptors and all that disruption was brought to our doors with COVID. We were all forced to change our business models and how we treated customers, how we contacted customers, how we interacted with customers, and there were some that got on board and did what they had to do and to make the changes, and there were some that tried to hold on to old ways, and I think you'll see coming out of this that there are dealerships that'll come out much stronger than they went into it, and some that'll come out weaker or not come out at all because they didn't want to make the changes. And there's a lot more changes to come out of this industry in the next few years.
100%. Like I've got my general sales manager who comes in, and really, we have a shorter trading day right now due to COVID, and we're here normally from 10 until 4. But really just looking at online inquiries and so forth. But he's also saying, geez, do we need all the salespeople we have? He's done a great job in selling some of the used cars, and it's actually it'll be quite a profitable month for our used car department. And it's just him. It's amazing when you sit back now and you look at potentially what we can do. Yes, we're busy 2 people in a dealership, but having a big team, you need a big team, because we know there's always leakage of time, in a dealership environment.
Right.
And, over the years, we've probably accepted it to a period of time. People having a coffee, chatting about the weekend and the football or whatever the case may be, motor racing or horse racing, whatever the case. And so, you're right. I think the dealership environment, it has to change. And this COVID has brought forward the disruption that people have been waiting to and talking about, the electrification of cars coming in 10 years' time. Well, COVID's maybe done us a bit of a favour to some extent.
Mm-hmm. I would agree that as terrible a tragedy as COVID is, it has forced change in the automotive industry that is probably as an industry probably as resistant to change as any that there is. As much as cars become more and more technical, we as automotive people try to hold on to that old way of the way we've always done it, that phrase that I hate, the way we've always done it type of things. I mean, going back to what we started with motivating teams and getting teams going, I think you're right that we have accepted, that kind of water cooler talk and all of that stuff. In the back of the house, if it's treated a little more factory-like, you're focusing on production as they're doing in factories. Certainly, if you're doing piece type work, you're not out walking around and chatting about your day and everything else like we tend to do in the shop. You tend to have those days where you probably waste 20 minutes to a half hour just having a conversation with technicians out there in the shop, and that's productive time that could be. Not could be. It does add up over over the course of a week or a month or a year into some real hours that are lost.
Dave, it's interesting you say that. So a couple of years ago when I was working in a Mercedes dealership, right? Well, a couple of years ago where it was, and I was the after-sales manager, and we were rolling out with Mercedes an express service campaign, right? So clients can come in and wait and so forth. And of course, you had to pick the right people to run this campaign. And so when I started interviewing, I was only there for a short period of time, just before the campaign started. So I really then start interviewing the techs and ask what the motivations are. And so an express has to be a good job, of course, and within the period required by the manufacturer. But when I was looking for the right guy, and I found a guy who was motivated by money, right? And he was quite a quick guy, and I noticed obviously why he'd get a certain point during the month, and then he'd just tap off. And said, no, my bonus is capped. And then, cut so short, I went to the owner of the dealership and said, you're capping a guy who's capping also you as a business. Sold him the sizzle. He said, all right, let's uncap it, let's go for it. And he was just a machine, right? And it's like if you stop to talk to him, he'd literally push you out of the way, right? You're costing me money.
Right.
And it's interesting when you have the right people with the right motivation, right? And I'm not saying that the dealership's all about just money, right? But it's attracting the right people with the right motivations as the business, and the business just takes off. And this guy was just, it was like $65,000 a month in labour sales. One guy by himself. He had an apprentice, right? But interesting enough, also he wasn't really a people person. So, right, this young apprentice, you have to mentor him if I'll give you this gig, right? So I gave him a bit of here's yours, and the apprentice just stepped up. It's amazing. Right?
Yeah. It's like when you go out and play golf with somebody who's way better than you, you tend to play a little better, right? It's the same type of thing. I have worked with technicians who would, come in the morning and just set their day up. They would go and find a couple of PDIs that they knew where the cars were. They had the keys, and, they would have their day all ready to go. So if there was a downtime when they were waiting for an answer from an advisor on a job, they'd go grab that PDI so that they could continue to make hours. It's like they were thinking about it like they were a lawyer with their billable hours, and every minute had to be billed out. So it is great. And you're absolutely right. You got to find the right people, and you got to know what motivates them. Right? Because not everybody is motivated by the money. Some people are motivated by, by other things, maybe a flexible schedule, or being able to come in a little bit later because they have a child they need to drop off somewhere, things. You certainly do have to know what your people's motivation are to be able to get everybody to work at their peak performance.
Yep, 100%.
Yes. All right. Kosi, this has been an excellent conversation. I think this is probably a good place for us to step off. I greatly appreciate you coming on the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast, and I know the listeners are gonna love the information that you provided them, and love that we talked to a dealer principal that actually understands the back of the house.
Great. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me on the show.
Excellent. It was very good, and hope to talk to you again very soon.
All the best. You keep well.
All right. Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Kosi had some incredible takeaways for us. We learned how going into a dealership is like an investigation. He had 102% turnover at a store that he took over, showing you sometimes that you have to just get rid of the people who are too negative to move on. And a big takeaway is that your team must look good even before they are good. All right, FixedOpsMastermind.com to join the Tuesday night group, the leaders group. Wednesdays, 2 p.m. is the free webinar series. And don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us to get this into the ears of other people who need it. Thank you very much. Till next time.